Hey y'all, we are here to talk about this weekend's episode of WoW Superheroes. In the midst here again of an amazing wrestling weekend, WoW Superheroes stands out as the amazing all-women show that we know it to be, with hard-hitting action as well as amazing tag team action. This is Steph and Kat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the faith, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the
Hey y'all, like I said earlier, welcome to Steph and Kat Talk WoW, the most amazing WoW post show on the planet. Of course, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, contributor for Daily DDT with a whole new article out, y'all. Please read it if you haven't already read it. It's about Jade Cargill. I was happy to write it, but please read it. And color commentator for the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. But of course, I'm not alone. I am with my fabulous tag team partner, the creator of In Cat We Trust, my tag team partner who I'm so happy to have to talk through WoW with me, and just an all-around amazing super mom and just a great person. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
I am happy to be here, a little tired, but happy to be here, happy to talk. Wow, there was some exciting stuff over the last few days about WoW, and so that made me very happy as a fan, as a viewer, as a content creator, and so we can't wait to get into it with you.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, there was lots of amazing stuff happening this weekend in the midst of, WoW being on, because of course you had Fastlane and so many other things happening. And of course, even things happening today in wrestling. Like, it just never ceases to amaze, being a fan at this special point in time. But of course, we're here to specifically talk about WoW Women of Wrestling. And of course, I have to discuss the fact that on today, this afternoon, if you're into daytime television, the co-owner of WoW, Jeannie Buss, who's also the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, was on the talk alongside the Beast, who is the former WoW world champion. And this made me really happy to see that they're, of course, making their rounds in terms of press and in terms of different shows and stuff like that, and on the news for different places. So this was really cool to see in terms of Instagram posts and pictures and stuff. So I love seeing stuff like that. So big ups to Jeannie Buss and the Beast for being on the talk. So of course, if you did miss that, I'm sure you can find the talk on YouTube or anywhere else that they might be having, they post their stuff. But big ups to them for being on the show on today, this afternoon. But another big thing that we found out this weekend in terms of WoW Superheroes was the fact that through WrestleNomics, who is like this amazing platform where you can look at different ratings for different wrestling shows, through the month of August and September, because he did correct himself that it was for August and September and not for October, and not for September and October. WoW's syndication telecast reached new heights in total viewership, being 428,000 viewers and 0.10 in August. And of course, this made me feel really good inside, because when you think about a show like WoW and how it doesn't necessarily like have, you know, a big huge like, it has a conglomerate behind it, but not like a specific wrestling conglomerate behind it, like WWE or an AEW or even an Impact. Like, when you think about the fact that this is a syndicated show that, is taped far in advance, and you have people, still coming in and watching it on different channels at different times throughout the weekend and stuff like that. This is an amazing accomplishment for the women of WoW. Like, I am just absolutely, this floored me and this excited me at the same time. And then another person tweeted and said that it should be talked about a whole lot more, that this show actually has ratings that would even rival AEW Rampage and AEW Collision, respectfully, of course. So this was amazing for me to see. And then it's empowering because it's an all women's show. It's an all women's wrestling show, because there are certain people, even in wrestling spaces, who feel like people would not pay to go see an all women's wrestling show, would not want to pay attention to an all women's wrestling show. But WoW is living proof, and these numbers are living proof, that people are clamoring for more women's representation in wrestling, period. So shout outs to all of the women of WoW, not even just, the champions, just, all of the women, because they collectively, push this brand forward. They truly care about it. They truly love wrestling. They love what they do. And of course, it's just amazing and it's uplifting to see. So, Katrina, how did you feel about both of these points of news, but most definitely like about the ratings?
I think that the ratings were great. We have been a fan since, first season kind of going in. And while we knew there was the other iteration of WoW, um, just kind of going in as new people without any prior knowledge of what was happening previously. And to even see all of these superheroes kind of elevate during that first season. And we're really starting to see a lot of the, I don't want to say, but like the the old squad, a lot of the ones elevating, especially now in season 2. And so to kind of see that other people are finally kind of taking notice was really nice. It was also really nice that people knew that we were people who have supported WoW, who have been from the very beginning, been very supportive of WoW and everything they're doing. And so it was kind of also very nice, and I say this with just everything that's happened in the last month. It was just really nice to know that other people knew what we were trying to do, what we were doing, and that we were here. And so just to kind of have that, and then other people again see how great of a product WoW is, and like, even though it's not necessarily what you would get with WWE or AEW, it's very niche, and that's fine, because even with it being niche, you still have very different characters that are very different parts of the spectrum. And so that's always nice to see. And so I'm glad more people are looking at it. I hope, as I did tweet, that by the end of the year, that number goes up. As far as them being on the talk, Jeannie Buss is great. Again, she has a lot of the knowledge just of sports in general because of the Lakers. But with that being said, it's really nice to kind of see them on daytime, because that implies that you're introducing it to a new audience. So if somebody wasn't really too aware of it and they watch that show, they watch Talk, and a lot of people do, well, now they kind of introduced into that, and they might be more inclined to want to watch to see what's going on. And so I think that was a nice move on Jeannie Buss's part to make sure, and then to have again representation for the brand in the beast. Very smart thing. I think that was a very smart choice as well. And so I'm excited for everything they're doing. I'm excited for what we're going to get going forward. And again, hopefully before we hit 2024, that number goes up as far as the viewership, because we have been watching. But again, it's a fantastic promotion, and I do think more people should be checking it as it is.
Yeah, and then another thing, I agree with everything that you said, first of all. And secondly, it was also nice to a degree, and I hope I don't get too emotional about it. It's just to see how many people, once we did, share the news about the ratings, how many people actually, talked about how we had a hand in it. Like, that was sort of mind blowing to me, because in a sense, we're just sitting here and we're talking about a show that we absolutely love. And of course, we've been doing that over the past year. And it's just like, we were talking about it from a very legit and, genuine place of how much we love the show. So the idea that people were indeed sort of giving us a little bit of credit for, WoW being where it is now, it's just absolutely, humbling, but it's still beautiful at the same time, because I know that I love women's wrestling as a whole, and I want to see it succeed, whether it's, in all wrestling platforms. So to be behind a show like this, even though it is different, it's really a no brainer. And it's just something that's a part of me now. Like, it's just something that I just have to do and you have to do. Like, at this point, like, it's a part of our breathing now. So I'm just really happy that they have gotten to this point, and I do truly believe that one day that they will reach, that 500,000 or that 600,000 or that 700,000. So it's just a beautiful thing, and women's wrestling is definitely where it's at. So I just praise God for the moment and for them rising to this point. So yeah, it's just amazing stuff all around, and we couldn't be happier for the women of WoW. So, with that in mind, we got to get into the episode proper. So, this episode actually started with some action. I know the last few episodes actually started with like promos and some talking and some contract signings, but this one actually started with the tag team match between The Last Call, Reina Del Rey, and Wrecking Ball versus Jennifer Florez and Steffi Slays, the generational queens, team generation Texas is what I was calling them. So this match was pretty okay for the most part. I feel like in this match we saw more of Jennifer Florez's, personality. Like, she is getting a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more sassy in the ring as she, um executes a lot of her moves and stuff. Like, it's just pretty insane how her attitude has gone from 0 to 100, from last season up until this season, but she is still on point with her action. And then of course you have Steffi Slays in there, who's the more experienced WoW OG, helping her out against these two. But yeah, like, this was pretty good for the most part. You had a couple of moments where Jennifer and Steffi were they hit like a double elbow to the chest of Wrecking Ball. But then Wrecking Ball was also mocking them and laughing at them out loud and yelling at them, like just talking smack at them the entire time. And so was Reina Del Rey. Like, they were just not having it with, Team Generation Texas at all. And what was so funny was, in the midst of them attacking Steffi Slays and isolating her from Jennifer, they were stepping all over her back, and then they even like flexed her arms backwards. Like, Reina Del Rey would flex her arms backwards, and then she actually stuck her fingers in her mouth and then actually stuck it in Steffi Slays' cheek, and that was just like so nasty. But she really did that on purpose to add an insult to injury. So I'm just like, girl, what the heck are you doing? But either way, it was just pretty insane. But even after Jennifer Florez, had a couple of flurries of punches and actually, escaped um, an electric chair attempt, the Last Call wound up beating Jennifer Florez and Steffi Slays with the pickup line, which is sort of like another version of the Heart Attack, which was made famous by the Hart family. So they hit that move onto Jennifer Florez after knocking Steffi Slays off of the apron, and they won the match. So yeah, Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey really did, bring it to them, and they won. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match and just how Reina and Wrecking Ball were just treating them, and just it was just weird, right?
Yeah, no, it was a little bit disrespectful. I'm not I'm not gonna lie. Like, do all of that, it was definitely disrespectful. And while we do know Steffi has a bit of the experience because she's been there longer, and Jen, hey, is more of the newbie with regards to WoW. Even with them being working well together, it wasn't enough for what Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey was doing. It was just they were so rude and so disrespectful. Like, to step on somebody's back, like like you're late. Like, I feel like that's so disrespectful to do all of that, and even to do stuff with mouth, which I'm real funny about. I'm extra funny now with like COVID and everything. I'm like, oh no, let's be safe, okay? Like, none of this. And they were just doing all types of stuff. Is crazy to me, but I do think that it was a nice way to open it, not necessarily for Steffi and Jen, just mostly the kind of show. I've said this for last season. And again, while I was very happy the Tonga Twins won it, I still am very happy that they have the titles. This was a team I was a little concerned about, being that might be a little bit of a problem because of how dominant they are. And they've been showing that, even though it was kind of weird when they kind of first appeared, like they kind of first got introduced to each other, it was a little weird of a thing. But then when they kind of teamed up, and I was like, I don't know, guys, like this is a team that you might have to watch out for. And I think that they could very well be a big problem in the tag division because of how they work, and the fact that they're a bit disrespectful means that they're kind of willing to do almost anything to get a win, and that can be very problematic for any tag team in WoW, but also in particular for the Tongas, who are the current champions. But otherwise, it was a great match. It just, they were definitely disrespectful, better to me, honestly. Sorry about let that slide if that was me, but otherwise, solid match.
Yeah, they were mad disrespectful. And then not even just with their disrespect, with adding insult to injury. You even had Wrecking Ball hitting an inverted pile driver. Like that was really impressive there, because sometimes when you see, women that are of like a larger ilk, you sort of think that they're just, brawlers or whatnot, but no, like they were still very technically sound. And of course they have that chemistry with each other. So that was still very valid with the last call. So if they did want to challenge the Tonga Twins for those titles, we would have a hard hitting affair. Like we really would. But either way, like it was just so sad to see Jennifer Florez and Stephy Slays lose though, because it just feels like since this new season has started, Jennifer Florez has kind of been on the struggle bus a bit. Like she has kind of been losing a lot, and I want to see her, flourish and do better, like because she's so good in and out of WoW. So I just want so much more for her.
I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. But either way, the last call wound up getting the win. And of course, Reina Del Rey was also yelling at David too while she was beating up on Steffi too. And I was just like, God dang. It was bad, but yeah, that's where we're at. So speaking of women of a larger ilk, we go backstage and we see what happened after the Beast and Chainsaw had their match last week, which was pretty excellent for the most part. Chainsaw goes backstage and Angelica Dante, her little sister, can't even control her at all because she's so angry. And then she starts tossing a lot of the women through walls and tearing up the locker room. She attacked Foxy Fierce. She even attacked Steffi Slays and a number of the other women. And literally, the only woman who could stop Chainsaw from attacking everybody was Holidead. Because all Holiday did was walk up to her and just stare at her. And Chainsaw just stopped dead in her tracks and was just looking at her like, like it was weird. And I was just like, whoa, what type of powers does Holiday have to stop a wild chainsaw that even Angelica Dante doesn't have? Like that's pretty insane stuff. So I think that was really interesting, seeing as Holiday, of course, had a match in this episode too.
Yeah.
But it's just like the idea that you're the only person that could stop her was just pretty insane. Hey, Shay, saying I believe in Holiday supremacy. Yeah, me too. So,
We
Kat, how did you
do.
feel about that? Yes.
Yes, we definitely do believe in Holidead supremacy. I think if anything, I believe Chainsaw is the older sister. And so just speaking as an older sister, while I'm usually pretty like level headed, I'm also can get real crazy with my siblings. I can. And obviously it's worse with my kids where I'm like, okay, I'll burn everything, I'll knock everything. It's that. But maybe that's why she couldn't get her to calm down. It might have just been like, man, please, like you were my little sister. Like I don't know. I got that vibe that the reason why she probably didn't listen too much is because she's the older sister. Like I got time. Like you don't know what you're talking about. I got this vibes. I do think, however, if you think of like as far as longevity, Holiday, I believe, does have that little bit over Chainsaw. And so if you're thinking of somebody in your team, I guess somebody that you trust, it would make some sense that she was the only one to calm down. And then we also know Holiday can also be a bit, in the ring, both in WoW and other places. Holiday has appeared. She can also be a little bit in the ring when you might have to be careful when you're fighting her. And so I think that was the reason, honestly. It's just like she's like, oh, you're my little sister, man, please. Like I don't have to listen to anything. I just got that vibe, like, you know what, your little sister, I don't really have to listen to this. But in regards to Holidead, it was mostly probably just because like they're part of a team, and if you want to think of who can probably be like the, the extras, I feel like if you're now ranking this, it might be Holidead, honestly. Like Voodoo, Siren does what she does, but I feel like out of this group, Holiday is probably the one you really, really need to watch out for. And this is not even because you have to do that with Chainsaw as well. But I feel like I've seen Holiday do too much for me to be like, oh no, I don't know. Like you have to watch that. And maybe that's why she listened to her instead of her sister.
Yeah, and as someone who is the older sister as well, me and my sister Jackie, shout out to her, we're 8 years apart. Um, because we're both incredibly stubborn in a way, sometimes, we it takes some time for me to sort of like get through to her sometimes when it comes to things that she might want to do, because she can go crazy as well at times too. And sometimes you really just have to like, yo, like please like calm down, like it's not that serious. But then she'd be like, nah. And but I totally get it. You know how sometimes little siblings will be like, nah, but then ultimately they will step back and realize, well, okay, they were saying that because they love me and because they just wanted the best for me and wanted me to just chill out. So I kind of get that. But Angelica seemed like she was just that there was just nothing that she could do for her older sister at that point. And just the fact that Holiday was able to keep her together was just really insane. But it wasn't insane because, of course, they have worked together before when they were all sort of torturing Candy Crush. So yeah, it does make sense. But Holiday really has been, showing out, here in the beginning part of this season, and it's really cool. But we will talk about that more a little bit later. So something that they did show in another vignette, they introduced us to a new WoW superhero in the form of Rebel Haze. She is from Seattle, Washington, which is kind of near and dear to me because I have relatives who live up there. Shout out to my auntie Johnny and my cousins. I have relatives that live up there, and it's just like, okay, Seattle, let's go. And she was talking a bit about her life and how she felt like she was always made to be a good girl, sort of made to follow all the rules and do things a certain way and dress a certain way. But eventually she got to a point to where she wanted to just break out and just be her own person and just let herself go, wild and be that free person that she knows that she is as Rebel Haze. And also, she mentioned something that women speak about on a regular basis in terms of feminism and in terms of just living everyday life. She talked about how people would always try to instruct her or tell her that she should smile more and how much she hates that. And when she said that, I was just like, you know what? I love you. I was like, I love you because, ma'am, you just spoke to a struggle that so many women have had to face and are definitely still facing even now. And I thought that was really profound that she said that. And once she broke out of that shell and became Rebel Haze, she became like this rocker chick with this guitar and all of that. And I was just like, yeah. And I just liked it. So, Katrina, how do you feel about this personality of Rebel Haze?
I like it. I saw something on social media where it was very video game is esque, where it's as if you're choosing your fighter. I thought that was really cool actually, and I thought that was a really fantastic intro to the character. Like if you didn't see like before they showed that info on her before her debut, is a little section. I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. That if I did know, I would kind of want to see what else she can do now. I want to see how I thought I liked the whole, you know, being a bit of a rebel because clearly that's even in the way she's dressed, that's where we're going with this. But I liked it. It was nice that we got some. I always like that. WoW always gives us some information. Sometimes it takes a little longer with some of the other ones where we wait a little bit to get some information or some background story. But I love when they do that because it's like you kind of go in, like you can look at a wrestler and like have some thoughts based off just looking at them, but when you have it where they're kind of speaking for themselves, where they're kind of saying, well, this is what led me to here, you can either get a better understanding of that person, maybe even sympathize or empathize depending on which way we're landing on what they're saying. And I think it also makes them more relatable to who's watching. And so I thought it was fun way to introduce her, and I love the little video game aspect that they added on social media too. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, it was a really nice touch. I like that as well because, video games are definitely, pretty big in wrestling culture. So I am glad that they sort of, are leaning into that as they're leaning into so many other visual things that are just appealing to the eye in terms of that. So big ups to WoW and their social media team for getting that cracking. But yeah, like Rebel, I really liked her. So I was just like, okay, so I want to see what you have to offer. So of course we did see what she had to offer in her debut match against Holidead. A heck of a person to make a debut against. So yeah, that was the second match. And then on top of that, you had one of the heavy metal sisters, Fury, on commentary. And when I tell you, since I'm a female commentator, I love it when women are on commentary, and I loved listening to Fury's voice. I loved listening to her. So I was just like, okay, like I really like the way that she sounded because it's only been so few times, or maybe not even at all, until now where we've heard Fury speak. And so to hear her speak, and see her add her 2 cents into the match was really cool. So I was just like, okay. And she was really scouting out Rebel Haze because it seems like they, of course, they have their kindred spirits because you're a heavy metal sister. That's Rebel Haze. She plays in a band. There's the rock and roll thing. So that was really cool to see. So Rebel in this match really did do a pretty good job in terms of her speed. She definitely impressed with her series of arm drags, including that, and then also with a sling blade that she hit on Holidead. But Holidead really wasn't playing any games, which it seems like she isn't doing this season. Like she's not playing any games with people because just like Shay said, there is Holidead supremacy, and this season Holidead is popping off. Like I couldn't believe half of the stuff that Holiday was doing. She was sweeping her off of her feet and just stomping on her, hitting her with like two or three leg drops at a time. And then of course she ended it with a kind of like a pile driver, but it was sort of like with her face in front forward instead and with her legs up in the air. So it was pretty insane to look at. Then on top of that, what I loved about Rebel Haze though was the fact that one of her finishing moves is actually called Jagged Little Pill, which is of course a famous song if you're into that form of rock. And I oh my gosh, who made that song? It's not Pink, is it?
Alanis Morissette.
Thank you, Alanis Morissette. And I thought that was really cool. And then even her theme song sounded like something Nirvana would make. So it was just really like leaning into that sort of thing. And I thought that was really cool. But in the end, Holiday wound up winning the match, which makes this the second victory for Holiday this season. So I really liked it. It was really cool. Shay saying, LOL, this photo makes it look like she has a beard like a senpai. I love it. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, like Holiday really came with it in this match. But big ups to Rebel Haze for, coming with a good fight even in her first match. So Kat, how did you feel about the match?
That was a fantastic match. Again, Holiday. I just wanted to show this because I thought this was a really fantastic photo. Um, Holiday does what Holiday do, and I feel like even though Rebel didn't win this, she had a good showing. And you're going to get somebody like a Holiday who's like just fantastic. I feel like I say this every time we talk about Holidead, but she's just so fantastic. And it's one thing to see it on TV. I have been very fortunate to see her in person and wrestle in person. And it's always like I'm always distracted in a good way of just how much she can kind of get you absorbed and how she wrestles. And so, she had a good showing considering, I feel like even if she didn't win, it's not necessarily a bad thing because you got to work with Holiday one, but also you handled enough on your own. I just, in this regard, Holiday is the more experienced one. And I felt like this is what happened here. But definitely a good showing for Rebel. But I love Holiday. And so it was just like she's been on a roll. We was kind of like wasn't sure what we were gonna get in season one because it was like sometimes it was fine, sometimes she wasn't. But she has really been on it this season so far, and I hope it kind of sticks around. And again, this is one of those situations when you see certain people kind of really standing out during the season. Is could this person be problematic for the champion? Could this person be a problem for would they want the title? And I'm not sure if Holiday wants the title, but again, she may give our girl Princess Aussie a bit of a problem if she decides to want that as well. You know, like this is, I can very easily see her going through the roster if need be, if that's the plan she wants to go with. So otherwise, I thought this was a nice intro for Rebel. I thought this was a great match. Holidead again showing just how amazing she is.
Absolutely. And in talking about championship stuff, her like Holidead and Princess Aussie, have a bit of history because we did address how at one point, in the older iterations of WoW, that Siren the Voodoo Doll and Holidead did at one point possess her to the point to where she had to go on a journey in which she had to get rid of her magical sticks and stuff. So that would be an amazing revisiting or retelling of that story if Holidead did challenge Princess Aussie, for the Wild World title. Like that would be an amazing thing, if she did, continue to go undefeated. Like an undefeated Holiday sounds pretty intense to me. But then you also think about how the Beast is in that equation as well. And it's just like, oh my God. It's insane to think about how everybody is essentially, would be gunning for the Wild World title, but I wouldn't be angry if Holiday did too, because she definitely is, showing that she is that girl or that spirit or whatever she is. But yeah, like she really is amazing. So I can't wait to see what else happens with her. And definitely can't wait to see what happens with Rebel Haze too. Cause like we said, she had a really great showing. And maybe she'll hook up with Fury and then there'll be another heavy metal team. Who knows? Like it would be really cool. And also I wouldn't mind hearing Fury on commentary more because her voice was just really, soothing. So shout out to her. So moving forward, we did see David McLean, co-owner of WoW and also commentator of WoW, try to procure the WoW World title away from the fabulous Lana Star. And of course, they both had, not really a war of words, but they were just kind of going back and forth, kind of throwing shade at each other. But ultimately David, just had to let her know, like, look, like you really just need to give me this title because it does not belong to you anymore. It can't go on your mantle anymore. It belongs to Princess Aussie. And Lana reluctantly gave it up. She reluctantly gave it up, and that's, how the business went. And yeah, the WoW World title is literally out of the grasp of the Fab Four now because it definitely belongs to Princess Aussie, who is our new WoW World champion. So, Kat, how do you feel about watching Lana just be so petty and not wanting to let that WoW World title go after stealing it?
I'm not surprised. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Lana had her girls on top. You know, you had the enforcer, that's Vicky, but then you had the twins who were champions, and you had Penelope who's champions, and that has all crumbled. That's all crumbled around her. And it's like, what can you now say? And this is again not to knock their skill, but clearly they was happy being champions. Clearly they was happy being on top of everybody, like on top of the food chain and wow. And so you kind of have that gone now. It's like everything is gone. Everything kind of fell week after week. It fell around you and it's not the same. And so of course she's being petty. It's like she is clearly trying to hold on to the little bit that she thought she had left with thinking Penelope was going to stay champion. And it's unfortunate because I think that if they didn't have the rematch, Penelope would still be champion. But Princess Aussie came in with a grudge and came in with some business to handle, and she handled it. And so I'm not surprised, honestly. You think of everything Lana has said from the very beginning when they joined together, none of this surprises me. I am a little surprised that eventually she gave it up, but I don't think that is the end of her messing with Princess Aussie the title. I don't see it as. I do think she's gonna probably try to do something else to get that title back, or some kind of I see her just doing something. Lana usually has a plan. And so I don't think she's just gonna be like, all right, fine, and let it go. I don't see her letting it go anytime soon, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. Because even within that exchange with David, like she did say that Princess Aussie, could just not have the title simply because of the fact that she didn't cover Penelope Pink, which, Penelope does have a leg to stand on with that argument because Princess Aussie covered Tormenta, but when it's triple threat rules, like David said, it counts. So either way, Princess still defeated Penelope Pink. But either way, it's just like she was just trying to find any type of excuse to hold on to the gold, but she couldn't do it no more. And even though you say that she might, try to play some more mind games with Princess Aussie, I hope she doesn't. Because quite frankly, I mean, how can you fight the fact that your faction was literally champions for almost over a year? Like, why even fight that? Like, over a year? There are certain champions who don't even like stay champions for that long. Like, there are certain champions who don't even stay champions for over 3 days sometimes. And the fact that you are the leader of a faction of new women in wrestling who are able to stay tag team champions and wild world champion for over a year is pretty impressive. So if she lost, she just lost, and maybe you should just let it go. But Lana doesn't know how to let it go. So yeah, she might not be through with her, but I would hope that she is because quite frankly, it's a new day and it's Princess Aussie's day, okay? And she deserves to celebrate with the title that she has. And I actually thought that maybe we would have seen Princess Aussie celebrate a little bit more in these past few episodes, but we haven't seen her since she won. So hopefully we'll see more of her later down the road. But either way, Lana gave it up and I was satisfied. So yeah. Moving on to the next thing, we did have a backstage segment with the Brat Pack, who is of course BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni, going up against Ariel, Sky, and Coach Campanelli Team Spirit, which led into their match. So they basically have a little bit of a rivalry here because a lot of the time, last season on WoW, we would see different matches over, different courses, different periods of time. But this is probably the first time in this iteration where we've seen like a consistent feud happening with a tag team. And well, outside of the Tonga Twins and Miami Sweet Heat, like this is really consistent. And I really do appreciate that. And then on top of that, they really just can't seem to stand each other because BK and Gigi just keep throwing shade at the fact that Team Spirit is missing a member in Randy Rara. And they're always questioning, where she is and whether they're, they've gotten themselves together as a tag team because they're better than them and so much stuff. So, yeah, this was a pretty hard hitting affair because, as you know, when Gigi's in there, she may be gorgeous, but she is definitely dangerous. She was beating on Ariel Sky a lot of the time. Coach Campanelli was also pretty crazy in the match as well. And sadly, I can't go through BK's bars tonight because I was not able to write it down because I was having technical issues. So sadly, on this episode of Steph and Cat Talks, wow, I will not be able to recount BK Rhythm's bars. And I know Katrina is probably happy about that. But either way, that's usually the highlight of the episode for me sometimes, but I can't do it tonight. I am so sorry. But I do know that she did insult, the fact that Ariel Sky was on the phone and got distracted in their last encounter with each other. But Ariel really did show a lot of what she had going on with her acrobatics because she had a backflip and a dropkick combination. Like it was really cool, a lot of the stuff they were pulling off. And then once, of course, Ariel was able to make the tag, Coach Campanelli came in, on fire, ready to just beat both women up. But somehow or another, Gigi and BK wound up winning the match. So Coach and Ariel Sky are still on the struggle bus. And you hate to see it, but that's really what's happening. They're still on the struggle bus. So, Kat, how are you feeling about the Brat Pack beating Team Spirit?
One, I will acknowledge that I am quite happy that we didn't go through the bars today because she she really be on one. We make me like just like
I'm
stop it.
sorry, guys. I try to be as consistent as I can, but I just couldn't do it this
So
weekend. I'm
I'm just
sorry,
saying
y'all.
I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. But it's a weird thing because I feel like ever since you know that episode where they were kind of oh, what's happening here? If there was members missing, they didn't kind of know what was going on. They haven't been on the same page, and I don't know if it's because Ariel Sky is more newer, uh, to the group than Randy was with regards to the. I'm thinking back to with Randy in the beginning too. Randy didn't necessarily always listen right away. It took her some time to start listening. It also took her some time to be more bolder. And when she was wrestling, what she would do during the match, she was always a lot more complicit and letting Cooch kind of handle things. And then she started really handling stuff more, especially when they won the titles. And so I don't know if it's one of the situations that Randy was kind of the glue holding them both together, with kind of being the middle person between Coach and Ariel, or is it because she's just not willing to necessarily listen as gung ho as Randy is doing? And I'm recalling just from the interview I had with her when she did mention that Coach usually had some gems that she listened to, but it's like, are we listening to those gems? Or are you now feeling like because you have a little bit more time in now, you don't have to listen to what she's saying? Is there something going on behind the scenes that is not really sitting right with you? And this is why it's so much miscommunication in the ring. I'm not surprised about Gigi, honestly, and because they've been, Gigi is pretty hard hitting, and we've said this before about her. Just like she is very, bougie to an extent, but she is also very rough in the ring. And I feel like that's a kind of a double, like, oh, you're pretty, but you can get down and dirty if you need to. And she is. And we've seen, BK Rhythm been kind of back and forth with. Sometimes she's really, really good. Sometimes she's not doing as great as she can do during the match. But I think because you have two women who kind of is just like, but mean spirited. I'm thinking of all the times we've seen them so far together where they're just doing like mean little things. They're mean spirited, and I feel like that extra a little bit off they needed to win this match. And this is not discrediting. I just think that they had that on them because it does not seem that Cooch and Ariel are on the same page. I don't know why, but I do think it might very well be that where's Randy? I feel like that's what it is, and it's like if you were friends with Randy and Randy's the one who brought you into the food, well, what do you do if she's not there? And you kind of listen to somebody that you may not necessarily understand the way she goes about things because Coach has said this herself. She thinks everything has to work her way. She's not always as willing to listen to another way or listen to another option. And so that might be very well what's playing out right now and why it doesn't seem to be working and while they're struggling a bit.
Yeah, and you really hate to see it because Randy was such a integral part of team spirit, and just the idea that she isn't there anymore just really does seem to be knocking them off kilter. So I don't know if somehow or another she could come back or something else will happen, but either way, I do hope that Coach and Ariel do kind of like pull it together because they have all the right tools. They just got to figure out the best way to utilize them so they can have tag team success and actually listen to each other a lot more. So hopefully that can happen so they can beat Gigi and BK if they want to, because I do feel like this feud isn't over. So yeah, hopefully they can do better a little bit later on and get off the struggle bus. So hopefully, it'll just be better for them later on. So yeah, you just hate to see it, but that's where we're at. So, before we go to our main event, they did announce that Candy Crush will be in action this coming weekend against another new WoW superhero in the form of Gloria Glitter. So, I am really excited about that because, of course, they are debuting new girls. And I can't wait to see more of the new girls that they have going up against the women that we have become more familiar with. And the fact that Candy Crush is fighting yet another new superhero is pretty interesting to me. I was just like, because just a few weeks ago she fought oh my gosh. Who did she fight? Oh my gosh, I'm so mad. Oh my gosh, who did she fight?
Hold
It was
on.
in it was Katarina Jinx. She fought
Yes,
Katarina
Katarina.
Jinx.
Yeah, it's Katarina. I was like, I don't think it's Katrina. Yes, Katarina.
Yeah, she fought Katarina Jinx, and now she has to fight somebody else that she didn't, that she hasn't had a chance to scout either in Gloria Glitter. So that's going to be really interesting. So that was really the only announcement they made for this coming weekend on WoW. So yeah, moving into the main event, which was the rematch for the WoW tag team titles. Of course, pitting the Tonga Twins, Kaoz and Kona, versus Miami Sweet Heat, Lindsey and Laurie, accompanied by the fabulous Lana Star. Lana was on commentary for this, but this made me mad low key because I'm just like, I don't trust her. Why is she out here? Because it's so funny that the last match that they had, which was the Falls Count Anywhere match, in which the Tonga Twins won the title, she didn't come out there with them. But now she wants to come out there with them. Yeah, because I guess you feel like once you're not out there, then stuff goes haywire. But yeah, I just didn't trust her out there, but I never trust her anyway. So that's not new. That's something that'll never change. Um, so moving on with the rest of this match, it was pretty, standard from what we're used to from these women, except Miami Sweet Heat seemed to be a little bit more aggressive in their approach because, of course, they're angry and they want their gold back. And they were really trying to like break the Tonga Twins as much as they possibly could throughout this match. But the match wound up not happening full out because it got interrupted. Well, it was just like, yo, it was a no contest due to the fact that Las Banditas came in and started attacking the Tonga Twins, and Lana Star was out there basically like rooting them on the entire time because of um their unholy alliance. And then on top of that, you had the mother truckers came out to help the Tonga Twins and fight them off. So this wound up being a no contest. So the Tonga Twins are still the Wild Tag Team Champions. But as you can see in these pictures, the fight was still being brought to Miami Sweet Heat, even as they were just being more aggressive. And yeah, I'm just so happy that the Tonga Twins are still champions, even though it came to a no contest, which basically means that at some point, Miami Sweet Heat is still gonna want another rematch. But I am glad that the mother truckers were able to come out and aid the Tonga Twins as they were getting jumped on. So yeah, that was how that episode of WoW ended. So Katrina, how did you feel about the main event? And do you think this is the last that we'll see of the twins fighting each other for the titles?
I don't think it's the last because it wasn't a proper rematch. Do I think it should be the last? Honestly, yes, because you think of all the nonsense they did when it was vice versa, when they were the champions, the Tongas trying to get back, and there was always some shenanigans happening. It was always some interference. There was always something. They wasn't so inclined to let the Tongas get a rematch all willy nilly, and so I feel like honestly they should kind of what's good for them is what's good for what they gave to everybody. It's good for them. I personally would not give them another rematch after this. Like, and the fact that the Tongas was the ones who got like they was the ones who got started with first by them coming at them as the Tonga Twins. So it wasn't even like somebody came and did something to them. This happened to the Tongas during their match. So it's like y'all had this weird thing happen. And if it's a problem that you don't get another rematch, well, then you might have to blame the alliance that Lana has with Sophia Lopez, because clearly that's what was happening. I don't know how long that this alliance will last. I do not think this, again, I will be truly surprised if this lasts the rest of the season. I do not think it is. There's some use for each other. But if you want to get upset that you lost your rematch or whatever the case may be, or didn't really get to go like it was supposed to, then you blame Lana for making that alliance with Sophia because they were the ones to interrupt it. So they automatically made that a problem once they came and interfered. And I don't know if that's again Lana not trusting that they can do what they need to do, because why would you have them interfere when the match really didn't get really started yet? It's not like they had like a bunch of stuff happening and you was like, all right, come in and make a save or something. You literally was just like, oh, it's fine. And you was cheering it on because you have this weird alliance. And so I don't know. I think it was for what we got. It was good, but I don't think it necessarily will be over because of how now it's too much stuff in play now. And we do know the amount of truckers have an issue with Los Banditas and Sophia Lopez because of the whole jail situation. But then we also know that they kind of want them titles as well. And that's the part where I do not think this alliance will last that long, because Sophia Lopez is about make sure her clients are on top. And if she wants her team to have those titles, that now puts her a bit at odds with Miami Sweet Heat because I'm sure Lana wants them to get those titles back. And so I just don't think it's going to last too long. But we'll see. I don't think it's over. I do think it's going to be something else to try to get another rematch. But again, it will only be of Lana's fault because she asked them or whatever she told for them to come out like that. That's not on, the Tongas because they were the ones that got beat up in this regard as far as being interfered on.
Yeah, you could argue that they shouldn't have another rematch because we have seen them fight a whole lot over the past year over these tag titles. And then it's just when you have all of the shenanigans that Lana and Sophia have thrown in there now, it's almost like, they do need to sort of move to the back of the line and figure out what that's like. Because they just feel like they're just obligated to everything because they've had everything sort of handed to them, since they were, on top and did have all the gold. But I really feel like at this point, they do need to figure out, what, being at the back of the line is like, because you have tag teams like, The Last Call and like Jennifer Florez and Stephy Slays and so many other tag teams who could have that opportunity. And they're just sort of hogging it up simply because, they lost it that one time. And that's not fair to them. So, they really could move to the back of the line and just, take a chill pill on them and just relax. But who even knows how that's going to happen? And then on top of that, you have Las Banditas who lost their last chance. So they're still fighting their way up. And then you have the Mother Truckers who I'm more than sure would like to have an opportunity as well. So you got all these tag teams thrown in there, and you just think that you're just the only one that's supposed to get an opportunity. No, like that's not how that works. So hopefully, we'll see more of the tag team division, be utilized when it comes to the tag titles. And, Kaoz and Kona will continue to have more of a longer reign that has nothing to do with, Pink and Black coming after them. So hopefully that'll happen and we'll have, better feuds at this point. Not saying that feud is bad, but I'm just saying like we just need a little bit more when it comes to that. So yeah, that was the end of that episode of WoW. So of course, if you love or if you want to get into WoW superheroes, you can go on their website, which is wowe.com, and look up where it's listed for you wherever you're living. Of course, type in your zip code and it'll tell you exactly what channels it's listed on. So of course, if you live in the state of Alabama, it comes on My 68 on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you go on wowe.com, you can look that up and figure out what time it comes on. You can also go on their YouTube page and watch those matches and those episodes because they do post the matches on Mondays, and also the full episode by at least Tuesday at the latest. So you can watch it on there as well and just continue to support it and support it as a brand, and continue to support women's wrestling as a whole and, just help it to grow more and more, even in the bigger promotions and even in the smaller ones like this too, and even in the indies. So yeah, it's just really cool stuff. And I hope that we can continue to talk about WoW and continue to give it the shine that it deserves. And get those ratings up, up, up. And then of course you can come and watch us talk about WoW every Monday. So, Katrina, thank you for joining all the time like you do. And just tell everybody where they can find and follow you.
You guys can find and follow me on social media in Cat We Trust, on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, and Twitter. The E is a 3. And obviously check me on in Cat We Trust YouTube channel for all new interviews, videos on movie reviews. And as for we're going on October, my first thing will be tomorrow, Spooktober on my channel to represents my love for Halloween and all things creepy. Thank you, Shay. Love you. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. Follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. Listen to the show on audio everywhere you get your audio podcasts, as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and you can even listen on YouTube or watch the episodes on YouTube as well. I'm grateful for more subscribers that have come, since we have started this show. And I'm really just happy with the other followers that have come on social media, in the past couple of weeks. That's been really cool. And also just continue to support the show wherever you see these clips, and also follow me on TikTok at Stephanie_Hardy. So yeah, it's just really cool stuff going on. So once you see it, like it, post about it, share it, retweet it, all of the above, just do that. So, of course, I hope you guys enjoy this fabulous Tuesday that we are about to have in wrestling, and just treat each other nice and just don't act crazy and ratchet. Just be good and just enjoy wrestling. So, of course, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow with me and Katrina. And until next time, bye, y'all.